Thank you very much, MC. We are taking 20 minutes, and it looks like you are delivering your own lecture. Anyway, the most important thing is that Billy is here for us. Billy is one of us. He's going to be one of us. And I have no doubt in my mind that whatever he will present to us today will be exciting, will be enriching, and will be something that we will all benefit from. So join me all in welcoming Billy Parrotin. Good afternoon, everybody. Mother, do you grow even stronger as your age increases? I would be begging that you indulge me if I say let me stand on the existing protocols, but that is without prejudice to the fact that I recognize my seniors in many ways who have sat up here and even sat amongst my audience. I recognize your worship and other members of the bar who are also sat. Movement. They were shocked that we could agree for me to come. Don't worry, it's not like my time is that valuable, even though we all used to be per the hour. It's just that you know how they scare us into believing that every part of Nigeria is unsafe. So those of us in Lagos believe that coming to the provincial cities and towns is dangerous, life-threatening. We see the images and we read the stories. And then those of you in the provincial cities and towns, you will also refuse to go to the villages because you read the stories. So you stay in the provincial villages and the cities. You don't go back to the hinterland. For many reasons, I wasn't expected to be here, but he gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. I love the sound of my own voice. He then went and told me I could choose any topic I liked. That was too tempting to pass up. So I told myself that since the major problem with Nigeria is the complete absence of the rule of law, and I have no apology for saying that I would speak to the centrality of the rule of law to the idea of citizenship. It sounded very appealing at the time. But when I got to Awka yesterday, after speaking with the chairman, actually the talk started yesterday morning, I realized that it would be a major error for me to come to Awka and start to presume to preach to the choir. Each and every one of you have the same educational grounding that I was given, and most of you received better. Some of you are my seniors at the bar by decades than many. I am nowhere near as intelligent as a lot of you, and I'm not saying that out of any false sense of humility. I am not a man who is given to defacing myself. I am conceited enough to trust in my own intelligence, but I am also humble enough to realize that it makes no sense to come to you and presume to speak to you about precepts and dogmas that you've been trained in and that you've applied all of your lives to varying degrees in your profession, either at the bar or at the bench. So it would be pointless to come to you to come and speak about the concept of citizenship and discuss the primacy of the rule of law to that. So I decided that I was going to speak to you about a duty that you owe as human beings But that will be easier to understand because you are lawyers before anything else. So we all have the same understanding of the sociology of law, the concept of citizenship, the idea of the state, and it becomes infinitely easier to speak to ourselves on the subject I have said for myself. Everything was nasty, brutish, and life was generally intolerable. So men decided that they should not live in this fashion and decided to form the state. And the state they elected to form took forth a sovereign who was to exercise the powers of the collective that had now been donated to the state. But Hobbes did not give us the duty or even the right to rebel. He believed that we should submit to that absolute state regardless of whether that state remains or becomes authoritarian. So the compact was not voidable by those who created the sovereign as far as Hobbes was concerned. But after him came other social compact theories. And the one who first explained clearly the duty that is on those who constituted the state to rebel is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was convinced that when the state that was created as a function of the collective will of the people has failed, it then falls on those who had created the state to rebel against the state they had created. Now, the dangerous thing about that is that when you take it in that fashion, you're calling for anarchy. One of them, the Americans said so, and then the hot sticks rolled up their backs and left Abuja and suspended activities there. But when you have the duty to rebel, John Locke also said, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he said, you have a duty to reconstitute. The duty to reconstitute can only happen when conscious men move beyond lamentation, which is what my initial paper would have been. I would have been lamenting. The bird in the cage is not singing, it's crying. And what I would have been doing would have been to be lamenting to you about the loss of the Nigerian. You'll probably be titillated by my lamentations, and when I'm done, you give me an applause. And I have a lot of lamentations. The inner bar of the bench. We, as a collective, are meant to be the last hope of the common man. That you found any applause for me stands in witness of the fact that I told no lies. Don't worry, some of you would definitely believe that there might have been lies, but we all agree that our judiciary is not exactly the last hope of the common man. And the judiciary is not necessarily just the bench. It speaks to all of us, all of us. Our situation has gone beyond the point where we begin to point fingers, because everything that I might care to point right back at me. It has taken all of us to be where we are now. But that is linked to my lecture. This is not a detour. Because when you speak to the duty to rebel, it must have arisen out of a certain set of circumstances. If you are part of a country, a state that was formed ostensibly for the protection of your lives and properties, the first duty of that state is the protection of lives and property. Every other thing that follows that only appertains to good life. It's essentially about that life above all things. But the one commodity that has become pretty cheap in Nigeria today is human life. The state has failed in every aspect when it comes to the protection of lives and properties. The Americans were not merely playing alarmist, and I'm not speaking as to their own innocence. I'm speaking solely as to the fact that they made an objective analysis and decided that this is an unsafe place, and they took off. Where are we going to be taken off to? We have nowhere to go. That is the reality. But the other part of that reality is the fact that the state, whose duty it is to protect me and you, has failed manifestly. Now, the danger about that failure, which places the duty on all of us to rebel, is that it is not born of inability or incapacity, it is born of complicity. I am in a room full of lawyers. I believe it is the University of Ibadan motto. They have this thing. I wrote it down so that I will not mispronounce it. I don't want to end up murdering the poor Latin. Well, it says recte sapere fons. It is UI's motto. He said to think straight is the fountain of knowledge. To think straight is the fountain of knowledge. If we are all looking at the same set of facts, we must not find the grace to delude ourselves into doubting the evidence of our senses. The Nigerian state is manifestly complicit in the erection of a state that has become manifestly unsafe and malevolently violent towards those who should be protected and called citizens. The reality of the Nigerian today, regardless of whether you are Igbo, Fulani, Yoruba, Ijaw, Guru, whatever you are, is that we are all victims. We ignore our victimhood and find solidarity with our oppressors because they are from our ethnicities. They are members of our sector. We worship in the same way. We are in the same church. We are in the same mosque. Oh, he's a Catholic like me. Oh, he's a Methodist like me. We go to Redeem Church together. We found many reasons to subjectivize the truth and pretend that we are not seeing what we see. But the reality is that the evidence is already finding room right on top of the bridges of our noses. This country has manifestly failed because of complicity at various levels. The complicity of those who will chop the budget for defense, the complicity of those who will protect terrorists, the complicity of those. I wrote a book. I titled it Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. I wasn't speaking to criminal law. It is the justice system itself that I was labeling criminal. And I wasn't speaking just about the justices, the judges, or the magistrates. I was speaking about all of us, including me. Because it has taken all of us to preserve this system. And it will require all of us at least agreeing on what the truth and the facts are before we may find our ways out of the mess in which we have meshed ourselves. We have a country today, after it has failed in the duty to protect both lives and property, it has equally designed a legal system sustained by all of us that is anything but capable of delivering justice. Explain to me, please. Mr. Jackson in Adamawa was in prison until political pressure was brought to bear and he was released. Sentenced to death for murder because he killed a man on his farm who was attacking him, and he managed to wrestle the knife from the person who had inflicted multiple injuries on him. And that was somehow not self-defense. And the Nigerian Supreme Court found the grace, the evil grace, to commit that man to prison. To death, I should say. And we are all serving in the temple of justice. So we've established already, don't worry, you can look straight. I wasn't talking about you. You are not one of the judges, you are not one of the prosecutors, you knew nothing about it, you are only guilty by association. So let's pretend that wasn't us. And let's also pretend that we do not in some way or the other contribute to that. But I'll say something. A judge had an application expertise on my book by somebody who claimed I defamed it. Expertise, civil, not the criminal part that you are all aware of now. And issued an order directing mobile police, civil defense, Kukuru defense to go and seize the books. Expertise. That is, it happened in 2 different jurisdictions. And those orders subsisted until in reality, because the writs expired, I was forced to go. That's why you can't get copies to buy in Nigeria. That is the justice system that we have built. United Kingdom, and I was going from London to Reading, which is an approximate distance of Ibadan to Lagos. I'll be in Reading in under 40 minutes. But we spent untold amounts of money, borrowed from our children's account to have a rail service that runs from Lagos to Ibadan in 2 hours 40 minutes. And our children will pay, and it delivers no value. I have said all of this so that you would understand very quickly that you can stand in front of this system and raise sterling candidates for political office, and the system would ensure that nothing good comes out of it, because that is what the system is designed to do. You can liken that to Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 2. I believe it's verse 2. Those of you who are Bible quoting, you can correct the reference. He says the vision is for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it. Write it down. Make it plain, that those who read it may run with it. I'm not suggesting that Nigeria should be balkanized and that you should have a separate homeland. But those who started Nigeria had clarity as to the country they were building, because they were not lying to themselves about what they had inherited. They understood clearly that Nigeria is a collection of nations, and that nation that they are seeking to build can only be built when they have found a synergy amongst the nations. So when you're talking about Nigeria, your nation, that nation has been more fragmented today than when that anthem was originally composed. So I cannot join you in that self-delusion. That is why I sat. Now, how is this relevant to what I have said myself today? I shared a proposed constitution with the chairman. That proposed constitution was originally released to Nigerians 8 years or so ago. It is annexed to my first 2 books. You can download both for free, actually. If you go to telefarotimi.com, you can download the entire books, or you can simply download the proposed constitution. I have come to the point where I realize that everything we do about Nigeria is reactionary. All this Dogonturenchi that we are speaking is reactionary. The system is not moved because we are bellyaching. And it is only when we get to the point where we challenge this bad idea of feudalism that underpins the Nigerian Constitution of 1999, or shall I say the fraud of 1999. I'm sorry, you may not like that usage, but that is not what it is. Decree 24 of 1999 is a codification of feudalism. It does not flow from the will of the Nigerian people, and it does not work for us. If it had worked for us, we will not be in the mess that we are in today. So what myself and a few friends did was that we came together, we used the 1963 Constitution as a template, and we took into cognizance the recommendations of the 2014 Constitutional Conference. And we proposed that there should be 6 regions, all of which flows approximately from what we recognize today as the geopolitical zones. That this should be found on federalism not the lie that we call true federalism. Once you introduce the word true, you are admitting to the fraudulence. You cannot have a federal system where these local government areas are controlled from the central. It doesn't make sense. It only allows for the lack of accountability that we see today. Another thing that we also propose is that we should go back to the regions that we had back then, the kind of strength they had and the kind of legislative list that was available to them, not the over-centralization of powers that we see in the 1994 and 1999 decree. So we also said that we should go back to the parliamentary system, because it is our own belief that in a parliamentary system, accountability to the people is heightened because of the proximity of the political operators to the people. We equally propose that each region should have its own constitution. It has come to the point where I have come to recognize that the system is happy when we belly. But if we should confront the system with ideas that we are able to sell to the people, it will not be what you have today, where the people fail to see any substantive changes capable of coming out of the system. Because as I was sharing with my planet senior, the difference between the APC and the ADC is one pimple like that. ADC has a pimple on his face. That pimple is Peter Obi. El-Rufai, APC. David Mark has been around forever. He's just part of the power structure. Aregbesola, Baba Fusa, that means half salary. My father was one of his victims in Osun State. Which one of them, aside from Peter, am I supposed to look at and perceive old? Is it Atiku? So we're in a situation where the politicians have already snookered us, and until we find common purpose, something behind which we can all queue and then demand change that gives our children a chance at some normalcy. We should not need anyone to tell us that our current trajectories are not sustainable. Whoever comes to power, if we do not touch our governance systems, where you have 36 governors, 774 local governments, plus innumerable numbers of LCDAs now. Lagos State moved from 24 local governments, I believe, to 50-something LCDAs. And other states have done the same. And they don't need to go to the federation again to do anything, but that lie continues to exist. A place that is not ruled by law. But you already know that. I could tell you again that you really cannot have a democracy in a place that is not governed by law. But I wouldn't be telling you anything new. You might be hearing me said brutally, frankly, for the first time, but I will not be saying anything new to you. Behind better ideas than the ones that have founded it is another ballgame entirely. The Nigerian state into which we have been born, the one in which we live, was not created on the back of any social compact theory. That thing sounds very nice when Europeans are saying so, because they have relativity and they can put that Magna Carta Bill of Rights and all kinds of customary basis for the institution of the human person. You are introducing me and you are calling me a human rights activist. It's an indictment on Nigeria. You have rights activists for animals. That's what you do. When you have involved in the state of humanity, you develop societies that are keenly aware of the need to advance rights to animals. Then they begin to talk about the RSPCA, the Royal Society for the Protection of Animals and all that. Are we then not animals if in this stage and time, 27 years after democracy was instituted in Nigeria, we are talking about human rights activists? It is a reflection of the fact that our system has failed solely to deliver the most basic, which is to treat us as human beings and preserve the dignity of our human person. I will not speak to the abject situation I found in prison because you all know what it looks like already. But the point and relevance of what I'm saying to you is that they will do that to me. With the level of impunity that was employed, and it's not abnormal. It is our everyday reality. The only reason we are talking about it is because it happened to someone who can make noise and on whose behalf many other persons make noise. But it happens routinely. This is the system we have built, and we must be able to tell ourselves that there is a different pathway for us. Kwame Nkrumah said something, and I'll close by explaining it. He said, revolutions are brought about by men of thought who act as men of action. Men of thought who act as men of action. We have a duty to ourselves and to generations unborn to do something about where we are. The word revolution comes from the French word, Old French, revolver. It means to turn around. Surely, you don't need me to tell you that we need to turn around. And in turning around, we can only do so when we already have a plan for the day after the decision to turn around. And it is that has led myself and a few colleagues to produce the draft constitution that I have shared with the chairman electronically, and I will share with as many of you as want it and as many of you as may want to go online to download it. Now, radical ideas always sound crazy. If it doesn't sound crazy, then there is no reason to advance them. The only thing I know is that if we could not find something to kill behind that offers hope for a better day after what must turn around, that's chaos. I don't want anarchy, but it is clear to me that if we don't do something and do it quickly, there is every chance that this house that we are all managing, that we call Nigeria, is going to collapse around our ears. I am one to say that I warned you already. I like the sound of my own voice, so please pardon me. We live in a world where we are actually perceived as threats to some people's well-being. When I say you, I'm talking about our race. I'm not talking about the Igbo or the Yorubas or the Hausa or the Fulani. They don't know the difference between any one of you. You might be busy abusing each other, this one, that one. They don't care. All they see, the classification of the black monkey is carrying the green passport. You are the ones who understand and know the differences between you. They don't care. If we do not find, instead of finding ways to unite ourselves in order to create the synergies that are evident when we bother, the synergies are evident for all of us to see. They talk about the Nigerian spirit. What is the Nigerian spirit? The refusal to accept limitations. But we still can go ahead and put limitations on ourselves by continuing to work with a system that has proven itself incapable of delivering anything good to us. Training, and it's not just experience. You have the training. You are curtailed from acting emotionally. If what we have proposed are unworkable, please critique them. Suggest something different. Suggest amendments. But surely, if they wouldn't allow a constitutional conference, nobody is saying that we can't talk to ourselves. And if we can talk to ourselves and find a consensus, surely we can organize and mobilize ourselves behind those consensus. But the only thing I don't accept is that we are helpless. As long as the human capacity to use the brain continues to exist, you all retain the duty to figure a way out of this mess. I thank you very much for the time that you have given me. I have enjoyed every last one of the sound of my own voice. I hope you've had as much fun. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. I know that a few people are looking shell-shocked, but certainly nobody is surprised. We've had a very enriching lecture, and I'm sure with the invitation to rebel, which Tene has offered all of us, there will be a few questions from people who want him to answer, because it appears part of the problem is we are all fighting for our comfort in this organized society that Billy has identified. So Mr. MC, please let us take some questions. I suggest that Billy write down all the questions and you can answer all at once. So answering one, so going back and forth. And the way we are going to do it is that we are going to take 5 questions, and if what you want to ask and asked by somebody else, just add a name to that person. So this is going to be asked by Uba, Ifeanyi, and Awka. So Uba to ask the question, Ifeanyi, it's not the same, yeah? So 4 questions, but in the light of international best practices and foreign trends, we want at least one of the questions to be from a gentleman in space, not a matter, and one other question to be from a young lawyer, because they hold the future of the bar. Please. So let's take 4 questions.
Joseph Ayansi. Actually, when the lecture was coming on, a lot of things was going on in my mind. And he talked about Amanke. And if care is not taken, that Amanke will be false. For the fact that lawyers are here this afternoon, let's look at what is happening in INEC. And I want you to help us as lawyers here, because I don't really understand why INEC that has a senior advocate of Nigeria as the chairman cannot understand the meaning of status quo antecedent. So my question this afternoon, can you please help us to throw more light on that, since we are all listening today? Thank you, sir.
My name is Alfred. I'm very young boy actually. I was going to the bar last year, and I had a few very personal questions. Your lecture raised some very important questions in my mind. I'm not going to goes to court almost every day, and there was an activity that came out of law school, like even before law school, because there was what we had in mind when we were doing law. There was what we expected, and when we came out, this was how we were going to effect change. And then we came into the system, and then we began to see things like you can go to court by 8 a.m. and then 9 court seats, go by 8, the court comes in by 12, rises by 3, and then, of course, all the matters, they will not be heard because we're going to be the last. And then it continues, and there was a certain thing that happened like that from the beginning to the end. Now, I complain to my seniors, and then they tell me that that's the normal, that's the young boy, that's the young man's lot. You should be used to it. And I don't believe that this is how it's meant to be. So when we talk about how the justice system and everything, it is part of the system. So now, from your lecture, you talked about the duty to rebel, and talked about also the duty to reconstitute. Now, my question is not just to you, but to next year, how do we actually effect the change you're talking about? What are the practical things that we can do? What are the practical ways to actually effect this change that we're talking about? Thank you very much.
My name is Udonna. So my question is this: while the guest, the keynote speaker was making his speech, a lot was going through my mind. It seems that our profession has continuously lost focus. Prior before now, NPA as a body is known to be very strong. When they come out to make statements, it carries weight. But it seems that all of those is going down by the day. And our conferences is like being reduced to just they will come, we meet with old friends, and then we disperse. So, my question to you is, do you attend our national conferences? If you do, you make mention of the fact that you have a proposal or a proposed constitution of the Republic of Nigeria. This proposed or this draft, to my mind, is something that should come up in our conferences. We look at it. When we look at it, just like you said, we can come up with something, and then as a body, we begin to push for it. So my question is, do you attend conferences? If you do, what do you do to ensure that this draft gets to every lawyer, and then we begin to attend our mind to it? We were here and saw how unceremoniously a chief judge of Nigeria was removed. What was done? Nothing. You also decried how somebody who defended himself by self-defense was condemned to heaven, to pay by hanging by the same justice system. So, sir, what are you doing to ensure that this draft is being pushed into the system? So now we begin to take it up from here. Thank you very much.
I wanted to keep quiet, but then my mind was being agitated. When you were speaking, you picked on ages. And you singled out people, and maybe from the look of it, I've only said here. My question is, are you telling us that there's no hope in all the political parties? So if there's no hope, what do we do? How do we move forward?
Well, the question related to INEC. Anything I might say concerning INEC would represent at best self-flagellation or just plain impotent wailing, lamentations. Back in 2023, I am on public record. I said it at least 4 or 5 times, different forums. There will not be an election in 2027 worthy of the name election. There was no APC when I was saying that. Labour Party had not been, but the attack on opposition parties had not become obvious. None of the infrastructure of Muslim society and democracy, and I don't use the word democracy because what we always had was the shadow. None of those institutions that began to show their hands, but it was predictable. I know and you know that regardless of whether it rains today and tomorrow or not, the sun will rise somewhere. So I really would prefer that we stop tendency of lying to ourselves and demanding that we believe the life that we have told ourselves. There is nothing to suggest to me that INEC will do anything other than what it is told by the person who appoints his head. And there is nothing about the person who has appointed the chairman of INEC that should suggest to anyone living in control of their senses that anything good was going to come out of INEC. I am not given to self-delusion, so I don't want us to flop the issue, but there is no basis for expecting anything from INEC. The gentleman, the young man, LLP Hans, yeah. Well, let me say this. You are inheritors of the mess that we have made of the country that we inherited. And why do they have episodic arguments about sectors? The reality is that the putrefaction is complete. We talk about the judge that does not turn up until 12, and if they are saying this in Awka, imagine what we are facing in Lagos. But the reality is that when you have a country where even airlines routinely lie when they cancel flights. I had a flight for 6:30 from Awka here today. My PA was trying to check me this morning. The airline said they had scheduled my 6:30 flight to 9:40 this morning. How do you do that? Where is the penalty for doing that? So we build a society where anything goes, and where the more powerful you are, the more levels of the purity you are able to assess. You don't talk about reforms in those kind of societies. You tell yourself the truth about your putrefaction, then you cut your losses, and you face the need to regenerate. So whilst I was here in the university, even my colleagues knew that once I turned 50, I was going to leave practice. So it's not like, oh, I became aware of the function of my profession, and that was why I jumped ship. No, I was always aware of the fact that Nigeria is not a place anchored to the rule of law. So how do you have justice in a place that is not anchored to the rule of law? So everything you talked about and your challenges as a young counsel are merely introduction to the reality of what we have been. If anything is going to change, it will be because we all stop lying to ourselves and leave the mess we have made of our society, and then result to be better. Anything outside of that, just as our children are shouting up NEPA now, your own children will equally complain about the society and the judiciary. It's even become hereditary now. So the children are learning from their fathers and mothers who are on the bench exactly how to behave, and they are watching them with their uncles to see how we also behave at the back. So they told you, get used to it, is the way it is. But you will only get used to it when you're giving up on the idea of the change. Now, the lady asked me about my role in the FDA. I've always been something of a loner. It's a fact. The chairman called me, and between us we know what transpired. Fact is that I will not only attend, I would attend at my own expense. But nobody, not because, maybe also because I'm not particularly accessible. And I also say clearly that I've retired, so it's not, I'm not, and then the things I have to say is not, they are not particularly popular or comfortable to the ears. So maybe that's why I have not found myself invited to the national conference. But as it regards the availability of the draft constitution, every book I have written, except the last one that still remains theoretically banned in Nigeria, Upon the attainment of the first anniversary, I've always made my books readily available for download. That constitution has been in the public space for over 8 years. If you set yourself on fire so that the blind may see, you've merely wasted your life. I think it was Muhammad Rida who said something along those lines. What else am I supposed to do? You don't light a lamp and put it under a bushel. I wrote books and I make them available for free download. That's my intellectual property. But I've never held on to it because I'm waiting for somebody to pay me. So it's up to those who are in search of ideas to find them and download them. Like I said earlier on, I'm conceited enough not to care what my generation says about me or what it feels about me. If what I have said, if the things I have written are true, maybe another generation will come and they will find them and they will use them to find their ways out of the mess that my own generation has created. But the duty I have is to make sure that it is for an appointed time. I have written it down. Maybe those who are meant to run with it will come one day, maybe not. But it is more important for me that I tell you than it is for you to hear. If you hear, if you don't, So to deal with the NDC APC thing, as asked by the chairman of the planning committee, that was merely a metaphor. My first book was titled "Do Not Die in Their War." Whose war? What war? It was the war that was being fought by the political class, whom I have never seen as anything other than one. They are the most united class in Nigeria, the political class, and that is why they move fluidly between parties. There is nothing ideological in their pursuit of power, and there is almost nothing altruistic either. And I said Peter Obi, I described him as a pimple on the face of the ADC because wherever he goes, he's an uncommon politician. Even his enemies have no choice but to acknowledge the fact that he's not like them. I can't, in good conscience, tell you that if you focus attention on me the way it's been focused on him, you won't find something or the other. My friends in law enforcement, I have one, a very old friend, he will tell me, there is no matter how clean you think yourself to be, if you put our hand in your anus, we'll find something to smell. I can't imagine how many times they've gone into Peter's colon, and yet they can't find anything to smell. That is why I describe him as a pimple. That's not flattering. They don't consider his presence in their party, whilst it might energize a certain class of people, is not exactly what they are looking for. We are demanding things that they cannot give us. Do you understand? So that's why I described him as a pimple. It's not to denigrate him or to in any way, shape or form suggest that he is unfit. He is the fittest when it comes to our political operatives. How many Nigerian politicians can come out and say in front of his enemies, if you can trace the cover of your money to me, I will give up my ambition? How many can say that? If you doubted the potency of the choices he has made with his life, you only need to look at what is happening to the likes of Malami, what is happening to the likes of El-Rufai, to give you a clear picture of the probity of the man who made the declaration. I'll leave the praise if you trace anything to me. We illustrate the fact that you do not have political parties in Nigeria. You have electoral platforms. That is all we have. I hope I've answered you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments? Okay, no. I want to suggest please take dates and send a copy of the Constitution. Send to me, send to the NBA president. We have his email also. Send to him so that becomes the basis for moving forward. For the young lawyer there, don't get that they told us that when you get into court early and you listen to your seniors argue their applications, it helps the butterflies in your stomach to evaporate, and then you learn some. Even if you don't get a shot, you learn some. Who I consider today as the CJ. The rules of our courts, if you look at them carefully, the rules of civil procedure create an order for matters to be heard. Motions and motions not being contested, contentious motion before matter for hearing. So I keep urging my lords that they can at times apply those rules, so that if you are there for a good. When I campaigned to be NBA president, I had a plan which I shared with the judiciary, which have not ladies that go to hairdressers here. You don't all go to your hairdresser at 9 o'clock. If your car is bad, the hairdresser gives you a time to come. The dentist gives you a time to come. The doctor gives you a time to come. Even those who are, the hairdresser gives you a time to come. The dentist gives you a time to come. The doctor gives you a time to come. Even those who are outside and say, oh, I'm a woman. It is only the practice in our courts that we all get to court at 9 o'clock. And our courts are so in unhealthy environment. So when we all pack into that court at 9 o'clock, we are wearing wigs and we are sweating so much that the judges as lawyers, unfortunately I belong to that class. Nothing tells you that because you are a senior advocate, you get to court. A lot of advocates disagree with me, but these are my views. But your case must be heard first. I have had the fortune of doing cases in other jurisdictions. So if you are a senior advocate, like King's Counsel, and you come into court, the court will ask you, are you involved in this matter? And if you say no, then they will ask you, why are you here? You go and wait. And when you tell you, you say the announcement. Emeka versus Chibuikem got 4 please. Emeka versus Chibuikem got 4. They have a place for the parties, they have a room for the lawyer, then they all go to the court. And you know they like to bring tea in England. So when the first order finishes, the judge takes that time to bring in. So my lord was Udonna here. I'm sure if he had an opportunity that after every 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes of taking and bringing that those who left before them are finally difficult for them to be able to survive. So there's hope in the profession. Just keep fighting. These are things that you can fight for, both at the bar. We have bartend forum. We can have this discussion. And we know this thing a bit differently. Justice Katie was teacher of the Federal High Court maybe 20 years ago. She ran the schedule system. She never adjourned her cases to treat it. She always said, treat it at 11 o'clock, treat it at 10 o'clock, treat it at 12 o'clock. That's 20 years ago. Some judges do it, some don't. And those that don't do it because I agree with you that we are all part of the problem. But if the Udonna tries this tomorrow, we will work. Because the first now was that I was on my way to court. My wife told me that my son had been admitted. So I needed an attorney. So the 10 o'clock matter, 11 o'clock one, they say they sent a letter. And they attached medical certificate. So that's why at times, everybody come, let me know the one that will go on and not the one that will not go. These are why we are all part of the problem. For those people who ask our adjournment every day in court, they do arbitration where adjournments are unknown and they don't ask for adjournment. But the bottom line is, when I was called to the bar 2 years ago, in 1986, I went through what you went through. But we use it as an opportunity to learn. We buy a notebook. We didn't have mobile phone then. So you sit down at the back of the court. And when the seniors are submitting all these, their cases and principles, we take notes down. I have 3 daughters who are lawyers. I don't know which of them have my notebook today. But you look at my people and I was passing it on. I saw many senior lawyers here. From that time, I had notebook. So you use that opportunity. Even if the matter is called first, and you hear that Okafor is coming to court, senior advocate, or by the grace of God, the union of the bar, Okafor sit back and wait to learn from them. But I want to assure you that one book that they have written, 3 books are not sold in Naira. Pounds and dollars. So one book on Hindu, money they get is good money, and he's chosen his own way. He knows that with his conviction and with what he's doing, he can hardly survive in this system. The system fights back. And the system fights back aggressively, which is what he's telling you. After 20 years at the bar, when the system wants to fight you need more activity. And he told me that when we convinced him to apply to be a judge, he thought we were letting him away. But now that he has looked at the list of judges, that why don't we become chief judge of the state one day? So there's hope. Just sit down and do the hard work. There's hope. In anything that you want to do. And you need to carry that hope so that when the rebellion comes, and when the change we all need in this country happens, we are there to do the work. So, for even because there's hopelessness in Nigeria, you will not prepare yourself, you will not prepare. If one lady is asking for comes, you will not be able to benefit from the system. Because the system is asking for is a system that thrives on hard work, merit, and integrity. You need to prepare yourself for that. If that is the only way you want to join the rebellion, then choose that way to join it. So prepare. And when we put their thoughts, I'll be ready. Thank you very much. Last part is going to be the result of the past interpretive project.
Gentlemen, another round of applause for the guest speaker. The powerful and while the chairman was making his comment, another important dignitary arrived. Gentlemen, please welcome and appreciate the presence of Honorable Johnson. You realize the guest speaker, as you already know, came here 3 of 4.
Past President Justin Alfred, my Lord the Chief
board that we represented our Lord with the board. The leader of the board, Chibuikem, Oma, the mentor, my Lord, Honorable Joseph Agabwa, who was from past years, distinguished colleagues. On behalf of the NBA, Awka, right? On behalf of the NBA Alfred, we present this award of excellence to Dele Farotimi in recognition of his absolute commitment to a better leadership anchored on the rule of law in Nigeria. Congratulations.